Welcome back. Let's try to go through part two. Part one, we left off with multiplying polynomials using algebra tiles. And now we're going to take a look at dividing polynomials with algebra tiles. So the first thing I would do if I want to solve it algebraically is I would look at our coefficients. So our coefficients are positive 10 and negative 2. 10 divided by negative 2 is going to give us negative 5. And now we're going to take a look at our exponents. We have x squared, and we have x. 2 minus 1 gives us 1, so we have x. Okay, so now we already know the solution algebraically, and now we're going to do the algebra tiles just to confirm that. So again, we have our dividend, then we have our divisor, and then this is our quotient. So to set this up, I know that I'm taking 10x squared, and I'm going to be dividing it by negative 2x. So let's do this. So we have our 10x, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and I'm just going to do groups of 2. So again, here we go. 7. Okay, so here we go. These are currently negative, so I'm going to shade them in to make it positive 10x squared. Okay, so there, I have my 10x squared. Now I'm dividing it by negative 2x. So I'm going to use maybe purple for that. So there's negative x, there's negative x. Right, so that's negative 2x. And for those of you guys who have maybe forgotten, you can look back up here to look at the legend as a reference point. So now what I'm going to ask myself is I'm going to figure out x times what gives me positive x squared. Well, negative x times negative x is actually going to give me positive x squared. So that's how I know how to figure out what my my quotient is. So I'm going to now go through it and go negative x times what gives me x squared. Well, negative x times negative x gives me positive x squared. Negative x times what gives me x squared? Well, negative x. And now you can see the pattern. Negative x times negative x gives me x squared. Negative x times negative x gives me x squared. Okay. And you'd essentially be doing the same thing here, right? Negative x times negative x gives me x squared. Negative x times negative x gives me x squared. Negative x times negative x gives me x squared. Negative x times negative x gives me x squared. Okay, and you do the same thing here. And again, algebraically, if we want to simplify it, the first thing that we could do is we could divide each of our terms by by positive 4, and then we can worry about our variable. So 8 divided by 4 is going to be 2. X squared divided by x, we're going to do 2 minus 1, which is x. And then negative 4 divided by 4 is negative 1. And then x divided by x is going to be 1 minus 1, which is 0. X to the exponent of 0 is just 1. Okay, so let's work through that. 8 divided by 4 is 2. X squared divided by x is going to be x. Negative 4 divided by 4 is going to be negative 1. And then x divided by x is going to be x to the exponent of 0, which is really equal to 1. Okay, so same thing applies here. Okay, part E, multiplying and dividing polynomials. Simplify the following polynomials. So we're going to be doing the distributive property. So we have negative 4x to the exponent of 4, and we're distributing that through. Keep in mind, negative times a positive is a negative, and a negative times a negative is a positive. So negative 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. When we multiply powers or multiply exponents, we add them. So we have 4 plus 2, which is 6. Negative times a positive, again, we have a negative. 4 times 3 is 12. X to the exponent of 4 times x, well, 4 plus 1 is 5. Negative times a negative is a positive. 4 times 1 is 4. We don't have any x's here, so we simply leave it as x to the exponent of 4. Okay, let's do 22. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to factor each of my terms by 9 and x cubed. Reminder, when we divide powers or divide exponents, we are subtracting them. Okay, so let's go through this step by step. 45 divided by 9 is 5. 7 minus 3 is 4. Okay, so that's done. Switch colors. We have a negative divided by a positive, which gives us a negative number. 27 divided by 9 is 3. 6 minus 3 is 3. Switch colors. We have a positive divided by a positive, which gives us a positive number. 18 divided by 9 is 2. We have x to the exponent of 5 divided by x to the exponent of 3. 5 minus 3 is 2. And there we go. Okay, let's move on. I'm not going to do 24 for you guys. You guys can do it. It's on the answer key. Okay, let's move on to 25. Okay, question 25. Find the missing side length. So we have a rectangle here. We're given the area. The area is 27x cubed minus 36x squared plus 45x. Okay, so before we start working with the polynomials, let's just refresh and remember that area is really equal to length times width, right? Or another way to think about it is to say that our length is equal to, if we were to divide both sides by w, our width, well then we get area divided by our width is equal to our length. Okay, so that's how we'd figure out that missing side. So let's figure it out. So I'm going to set this up by saying 27x cubed minus 36x squared plus 45x. And now I'm going to divide the entire thing by 9x. And that will give me my length. So my length, again, doing it step by step, 27 divided by 9 is 3. X cubed divided by x, so we have 3 minus 1, which is 2, x squared. Negative divided by a positive is a negative. 36 divided by 9 is 4. X squared divided by x, we have 2 minus 1, which is just x. 45 divided by 9 is 5. X divided by x, we have 1 minus 1, which is x to the exponent of 0, which is equal to 1, which means that we don't need to write it. And there's our answer. To take it a step further, you may have potential questions where they then give you the value of x. And if they tell you the value of x was maybe 2, then you would actually need to substitute that value of 2 in for x, and then you would actually solve for the length. Okay, question 26 is very similar. You're given a triangle has an area represented by this, so you're given the area. And now you need to figure out the height. It's no different than this one. And again, this question is also on the answer key. On your PAT or on your Strand exam, you will have some substitution questions. So substitution, for those of you guys who play sports, just think about substituting your values of A, B, and C into the given expressions. So I'm going to do 27, and then I'll also do 29. So looking at 27, negative 6c, well, what is the value of c? So c is equal to 4. So I'm going to write this out. I'm going to take my time. Negative 6 bracket, my value of c is 4, minus 4, and then my value of b is negative 2. Now I just simplify. Negative 6 times 4 is negative 24. And I kind of glanced over this, but we are remembering bed mass. Right? Bed mass. That's why I did the multiplication first. Now we're doing negative 4 times negative 2. Negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8. Negative 24 plus 8, so it's negative 24 degrees out, and the weather person says it goes up by 8 degrees, which gives us a difference of negative 16, and that's your answer. Okay, let's look at question 29. Question 29, we have in brackets c plus a, and that's in brackets, and then we have that multiplied by b. Remember our distributive properties, so we're going to be filling in our variables, and then we're going to distribute that b to each term. Or, since it is in brackets, we actually could just do c plus a and then multiply it by b. It's the same thing. So what is our b value? Our b value is negative 2. Let's look at our brackets. In our brackets, we have c. c is 4. And then our a value is 3. Four plus 3 is 7. So we can do that. Negative 2 times 7 is also equal to negative 14. Part G, graphing linear relations. So this recalls our y equals mx plus b unit. For those of you guys who need a refresher, this constant is our b value, which is also known as our y-intercept. This right here, the coefficient attached to our x, is also known as our slope. Sorry for the messy writing. Our y-intercept is where our line touches at the y-axis. And our slope is our rise over our run, or our rate of change. So we're given the formula, y equals 5x minus 2. We're given our x values. Now we have to substitute our x values into the equation and solve for y. So for the first one, we have 5 times negative 2, 5 times negative 2, which is going to be negative 10 minus 2 is going to give us 12. So I'm going to start filling these in. So this is going to be negative 12. 5 times negative 1 minus 2 is negative 7. 5 times 0 minus 2 is going to be minus 2. And I forgot to mention this as well. Our b value, or our y-intercept, is where our line touches at the y-axis. I did say that, but that's going to be where our x value is 0. So where our x value is 0, that's going to be our y-intercept. When x equals 1, our value of y is 3. When x equals 2, 5 times 2 minus 2, we get 8. Now we're going to record our ordered pairs. So our ordered pairs are in reference to x and y. So our ordered pairs are always going to be x, comma, y. So our first set of ordered pairs are going to be negative 2, negative 12, negative 1, negative 7, 0, and negative 2, 1, and 3, and then we have 2 and 8. Now that we have our ordered pairs, now we're able to graph this line. So we're going to use our x values. So our value of x for our first point is going to be negative 2. So this is 0, this is negative 1, this is negative 2. But we're going to go down to negative 12. Remembering that in quadrant 1, our x values are positive and our y values are positive. So this is our Q1. This is our Q2. Our x values are negative, our y values are positive. In Q3, our x values are negative, our y values are negative. And then in Q4, our x values are positive, but our y values are negative. So negative 2, negative 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, let's maybe make it a scale of 2. So we'll go, let's go maybe 2, and then we'll go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Now let's do the next one. So we'll go negative 1. So this is negative 2, go half. Negative 2, negative 4, negative 6, go half. There we go, negative 7. Now we have x is 0, but our y-intercept is negative 2. Our x value is 1. And then we're going to go to 3. So this is going to be 2, 3. Our x value is 2. And now we're going to have a y value of 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. So let's double check that. Negative 2. Here. Down to 12. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Love it. 8, negative 1, negative 7, 2, 4, 6, 7, 0, negative 2, 1, positive 3, 2, positive 8, 2, 4, 6, 8. And then you draw your line. Okay, so that's how we would draw question 30. Okay, so this is Q30. Finding the equation from a table of values and the graph. So here we go. We're given our x values, or some of them, and we're given some y values. So the first thing that I would do is I would look at my change in x and y. So right here, I have an x value and I have a y value. My current change between my x and y, right here, is 5. Okay. Actually, let's not look. That's not what I meant. Not my change in x and y. What I actually meant is we're going to look at our changes between our y values and then our changes in our x values. So my changes in my x values are +3. So +3. And then my changes in my my x values are +1. So 8 plus 3 gives us 11. 11 plus 3 gives us 14. I'm going to do that in a different color. And then 14 plus 3 gives us 17. So that checks out. So our ordered pairs are going to be +3, +3, +3, +3 for our y values. Our change in x is +1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To figure out this value of y, since we added 3, we're going to -3. 8 minus 3 gives us 5. And again, your ordered pairs are going to be your x value, then your y value. So 1 and 5, and so on and so forth. Okay, so how do we take this information and then we create our equation? Well, we know that we're doing y equals mx plus b, so it's going to start off with a y. Our b value we can determine by figuring out when x is 0. So our x value is changed by +1. So 1 minus 1 is 0. And now looking at our y value, we know that we're changing by +3. So if we minus 3, 5 minus 3 gives us 2. So that's going to be our b value, +2. Now to figure out our slope, we're going to find our change in y divided by our change in x. Well, our change in x is going to be 1, so we're really just going to be looking at our change in y. Well, what is our change in y? Well, the change, or the difference between our y values, is +3. So we get 3 over 1, which is really just 3. So we can rewrite that as 3x plus 2. Let's do one more example before we stop. Looking at our x values, we're going to determine our change in x. Our change in x is likely to be 1, so we're looking at 1. Okay, does 2 work? Does it go 3? Does it go 4? Yes, and it goes 5. So our change in x is +1. Makes things nice and easy. Looking at our y values, what is our change in y? Well, going from 9 to 16, it's +7. So now our slope, or our m value, is going to be 7 divided by 1, which is 7. So y equals 7x. We need to figure out our y-intercept. Our y-intercept is where our value of x is 0. So we're going to minus 1 to get 0. And we're going to have 9, and we're going to subtract 7, which then gives us 2. So our b value is +2. Alright, so I'm going to stop there, and we're going to call this part 2 of our Strand exam review.